Hello YouTube, Shin Tiger Curl here, that dude in the straw hat, bringing you yet another episode in my series, Manga You Should Be Reading. That's right, it's the series where I showcase little underappreciated or unknown manga that you anime watchers and manga readers would like and enjoy. And this week's is going to be a little special one. You know the old saying, never judge a book by its cover? Just because something looks a certain way doesn't mean it is a certain way. Well, this one is probably the prototypical example of it. A few years ago, I decided, when I was just started reading the bulk manga that I do, I discovered this little ditty just cruising around, looking around for something new to read. I read it, I loved it, and even in preparation for this review, I actually read it for a fourth time, and it still holds up. This is Angel Densetsu, or Angel of Legend, for those of you of the English-speaking variety. Shonen manga, created by mangaka Norihiro Yagi, serialized in Monthly Shonen Jump from 1992 to 2000. 8 years, that's pretty impressive. It has a total of 15 volumes, which runs to about 80 chapters overall. Not very long, but it's well worth the read. And in 1996, it gained a 45-minute OVA, or original video animation, that was released and is currently available on VHS if you can find it. So anyway, the plot to Angel Densetsu focuses around Seiichiro Kitano. He is probably the kindest and most pure-hearted boy you will ever meet. Kind, courteous, helpful, respectful, always looking out for others, doesn't have a mean bone in his body, and is pretty much the ideal person to have a friend as. Unfortunately, he had the horrible luck of his looks. His hair is constantly slicked back because of all the copious amounts of hair gel he uses. His skin is dreadfully pale. He is, ghostly thin, has bags underneath his eyes, no eyebrows, and has unnaturally small pupils, so small in fact that he is extremely susceptible to sunlight, especially during summer. This makes people believe that this combined gives him a terrifying countenance, most people believing he is either a delinquent or heroin addict at the least, and at the most, a demon straight from the bowels of hell. This causes people to either assume he's a delinquent, or, like I said, delinquent, and just shun him outright, or many people to outright attack him without even giving the slightest bit of understanding of who he is. But despite all this, he continues to persevere, doing everything that he can to have a good life and making the lives of those around him great. As soon as he enters Heikaku High School, the principal pretty much makes it his mission to get him expelled, even though he has done nothing wrong. Kitano is a model student, always comes to class, never is late, and is always polite. But unfortunately, because of his own lack of understanding of the things of certain situations around him, his own naivete, rotten luck, and his appearance, this leads to many humorous misunderstandings from both friends and foes alike. Probably the one I would use as an example: Kitano and several of his male friends, all of whom were delinquents, decide to go to the park to clean it out. By clean out, for the delinquent side, they want to get rid of all the delinquents who have been hassling the students coming through there on their way to their high school. For Kitano, it just means cleaning it up, like removing all the trash and whatnot. So much so that he decides to bring brooms along with them. They often assume they misunderstand him bringing brooms along as a means of using weapons to hide in plain sight. Sorry. So anyway, they all split up once they get to the park. The other delinquents are beating up all the other bad students in the area, while Kitano is cleaning up the front of the park. While he does so, he trips over a large root and nearly knocks himself unconscious. He comments that the root is naturally disguised, that anyone could trip over it. And in the next scene, a couple of delinquents running from the others runs into Kitano, scared of his face, trip over the root and knock themselves unconscious. By the time Kitano's friends arrive, they find a literal mountain of bodies in front of their fearless leader, who is sweeping them up calmly without a single mark on him, leading to his furthering his legend as an invincible human wrecking machine. Kitano doesn't like conflict. He hates fights because, in his own words, punching hurts, and you wouldn't want to do that to someone else. But it doesn't mean he is unfamiliar with fighting. Because people oftentimes attack him for no real reason, he's used to people punching him. While he possesses no real martial arts abilities, he does not mean he's weak per se. He is unusually fast, so fast in fact that highly skilled fighters and martial artists have trouble hitting him or even keeping up with his movements. He also instinctively does a trick that was coined from Miyamoto Musashi, one of the greatest samurais ever. When he gets punched, he instinctively tilts his body in the direction of the punch, mitigating the damage, so that every time he gets knocked down, he will get back up with minimal to no damage at all. This causes his opponents to, either panic in outright terror of why this guy won't stay down, or continue to, or lose their composition, or composure in this regard. This furthering making him, adding more to his terrifying legend. He only has one offensive maneuver, a double palm push to the chest, which he does instinctively to protect people. But and even though he is supposedly so very weak because of his thin body, he can actually send people flying with this double pushed palm to the chest. Even though the classmates of his school start to fear him, they begin to see that he's not as bad as they once made him out to be, and get used to his appearance, even calling him just a normal person despite his appearance, but it takes a while. So, there's that. Moving on, we move on to Seikichi Kuroda. He is the guardian or head delinquent of Heikaiyu High School. He was the slave to the previous guardian for most of his high school life, and thought that this year he would enjoy life as the guardian of the school in his last year. That is until Kitano arrived and kind of took that title away from him. He's out of all the members of the main cast, he's the most delinquent-like. He skips lessons, provokes fights, and smokes. Even though, despite how physically tall and large, and despite having considerable strength, he oftentimes gets beaten up by pretty much, everybody in this freaking series. He's not physically weak, it's just that everyone's too damn strong. And also, his defects lie in his mind. Whenever he's presented with a fight, he easily gets scared and tends to panic. When he does, he starts to break away from reality and starts talking about shit like the sky and life in general. He's also not very smart. He's simple-minded enough that even the student council president Suda can manipulate him with just a few words and a picture. I'll get to that later. He does have considerable strength, but only when he overcomes his shortfallings. But that's few and far in between. Next up, we have Yuji Takahashi, or Takahishi. I'm sorry, I'm trying to pronounce this. My mouth's kind of jacked up at the moment. Yuji Takehisha. I'm just going to call him Yuji for short. He's a first-year student, and also a delinquent, much like Kuroda. But unlike Kuroda, he can actually fight, and is actually a pretty strong fighter despite his small size. He was suspended before the start of the manga, before the start of the story, for beating up one of the teachers. Don't worry, the teacher was an asshole. He deserved it. Upon returning and finding out that Kuroda had been dethroned as the guardian, he decides to test himself against Kitano, even going so far as to pull a knife on the guy. Kitano kind of misunderstands this as Yuji trying to kill himself by slitting his wrists. It makes more sense when you read it. After being beaten by him, he proclaims himself the little brother to the school's boss, and becomes his loyal follower and eventually his best friend. Although he starts off as a delinquent, because he hangs around with Kitano all the time, he becomes less and less delinquent-like. He doesn't gets into as many fights as anymore, although he doesn't lose any fighting skill because of it. He doesn't skip classes. He stays calm most of the time and is generally more well-natured. He only gets really upset when protecting his friends or himself. And it can be stated that Yuji is perhaps is Kitano's best friend, despite the fact that he still sees him as something of a master delinquent. Next up is Ryoko Koiso, the daughter of a martial arts master of the self-styled Kyoso-style Kobujutsu karate. Because her father is a martial arts master, Ryoko is a magnificent fighter, capable of beating down most delinquents in one punch, and has no trouble taking down groups all by herself. Like many, she originally believes Kitano was very evil and very strong, and after having a one-on-one fight with him, she is the first person to see that beneath his monstrous exterior and weird myths and legends, he's just a normal person, and nice and all. As the story progresses, she becomes the first as I said, she's the first person to see beyond him and see the true Kitano, but she doesn't really go out of her way to dissuade the rumors and stories about him. In her own belief, she doesn't even tell people his true nature because, in her own words, if people always think that what they see is everything, then they don't realize they can't see what truly is important. Meaning, don't judge a book by its cover. She's the first normal student that's not a delinquent to talk to Kitano openly. As a fighter, like I said, she is pretty damn powerful, so much so that the only time she ever loses is when she's ganged up on, dirty tricks are used, or when she has an accident. She's also become something. He becomes his love interest, falling deeply in love with him upon seeing how strong-willed and pure-hearted he is, and even goes so far as to try to change his appearance so that he's more like a normal person. She cares greatly about what Kitano thinks of her, even at times going overboard and overreacting and overthinking certain situations. She's pretty, like I said, she's pretty cool and one of my favorite characters in the entire series. Let's see, who else? Yes, Takashi Ogisu, another first-year transfer student after Kitano. He dyes his hair red and has very large eye whites. He holds himself. He originally came to the town and thought everyone was pathetic, and he wanted to claim the title of guardian from the school and eventually conquer the whole town. He calls himself a fighting master because he had studied various forms of martial arts. From the area he must be good because from the area where he came from, he had never lost a single fight, even though he has lost to several fighters including Takahisha, Ryoko, and Kitano on his first day. This causes a very big blow to his self-confidence. While he's still a competent fighter, he will get holed out by superior fighters, will get holed out by superior fighters. Even towards the end of the series, he realizes he's still a powerful fighter. It's just that there are so many powerful fighters in that school already, so he settles for being number 8. In fact, surprisingly, Ogisu is probably the only person in the entire series who respects Kuroda, seeing him as the true guardian and always calls Kitano number 2. It's very interesting like that. Next up, we have Ikuno Shirataki, the daughter of a special student counselor of delinquent re-educators used by the district. She was taught martial arts from a very early age and is quite powerful, so much so that her father even believes that she could become stronger as her. She's extremely beautiful with her brown hair and sailor uniform that stands out as a first-year transfer student because she doesn't really like changing uniforms because of her father's work. It became a pain to buy a new uniform, so she just sticks with her old one. She was originally brought in to beat down Kitano, but his appearance shakes her to her core and causes her to, go through a crisis of conscience. After being defeated by Ryoko, she becomes a part of their group, even conversing with both Ryoko and Kitano on normal means. She's first seen as sort of cold and uncaring, which is sort of true, but she gradually becomes softer and more accepting, although her facial expressions remain completely emotionless because, well, it's the source of her humor. She can say pretty much anything that she wants, but people won't be able to read her because, well, with her with her bland, emotionless expression, you really can't read what she's doing. It's noticeable that it isn't really noticeable, but she too has feelings for Kitano, even confessing love for him. But she loves watching Ryoko and Kitano interact, thinking and loves watching them, well, be lovey-dovey. She even mentions in one occasion that if Kitano and Ryoko get married, she would be his mistress. And she's also probably the only student to ever call Kitano by his first name, Seiichiro. She's cool. And those are just the main characters that I want to get to. There are many other characters, including Kitano's parents, who, well, you'll have to see for yourself. They're pretty awesome. As far as artwork goes, Angel Densetsu, because it was made in the 90s, you can actually see the 90s influence of it. The art style is very simplistic, with simple lines and drawings for all the characters. In fact, a lot of the secondary characters don't really have that much distinction between them. In fact, my first time reading it, I had a hard time disseminating certain characters from other characters because they were drawn so similarly. Not that it's a dissuasion or anything, but if you're not used to this old kind of style of drawing, then this might turn you off. But I'd still recommend that you read it. The art, like I said, the art style is simplistic. The girls, as far as fan service goes, is very light. The girls are drawn attractive, but not, oh my god, super duper hot. I mean, they're high school students, after all. Kitano's facial expressions make the comedy for this, as well as his tendency of screeching when he panics or is in a heightened state of excitability. What I mean is when he panics, he typically screeches in this high tone that makes it hard to discern what he's saying. It makes him come off as more intimidating than he actually is. I mean, he could be saying something like, "Hey, are you okay?" But really, he's saying, "Gah! Yeah, it's awesome. The story is basically a manga of misunderstandings. They're not major arcs, but just sort of story mini arcs that showcase how misunderstandings start with Kitano because of his naivete and because of people's natural proclivity to judge a person based on their looks. This can be a source of both humor and sadness. Humor into seeing just how far this stuff goes, but sadness in that Kitano is usually because of his bad luck, he often suffers the most. I mean, one time he was just jogging along and he gets punched out by a jogging boxer who assumed that he was just an evil demon, and because people were naturally scared of him, no one comes to help him. It's just weird like that. It makes you feel sad for him, but his cheerful personality and positive outlook just makes you love the guy more. He is honestly one of my all-time favorite protagonists. Even though he does get into a few fights, and he does have a stubborn will to win, he doesn't go looking for them. Like I said, he doesn't like fighting because people tend to get hurt. And he doesn't like to hurt people. He wouldn't want to get hurt himself, so there's that. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this manga. It's enough to make you laugh out loud and enough to make you cry with some of the moments involved in it. The simplistic art style makes it so that you focus more on the characters and not on how they look, but more on how they are. I mean, I didn't even realize that until now. I mean, that really says a lot for this style, this simplistic style that focuses more on the characters. You see the people as characters more than you see them with their overall looks. Ryoko and Kuno are attractive, but you remember them more for the character moments and their personality more so than their looks. And you really want to root for Kitano. Although it does get grating on you, well, did for me, when you see Kuroda act like a complete asshole sometimes just to get Ryoko's attentions or what have you. But I can still enjoy them. I don't know if you would, but there's that. Like I said, this is a very short manga. You could probably read it in like 2 days, depending on depending on what you're doing in your life and how much time you have to spare. It's only 15 volumes, 84 chapters in all. So if you can spare, the chapters aren't really that long, and they'll fly by in an instant, but really, you should give it a try. I really tried to find more about work from Norihiro Yagi, but from the looks of things, he really hasn't done much. The only other thing he is famous for, and you've probably read it, is Claymore, which is a historic fantasy manga that's still going on to this day. He only has really 3 works under his name. This one, Claymore, and a one-shot called Undeadman. But I might give Claymore a try one of these days, because I like Angel Densetsu, and I really want to see what more this guy has to offer. So anyway, that is my overall review of Angel Densetsu. If you like what you've heard, link, comment, subscribe below. If you got any questions, comments, you want me to talk more about this particular manga, or if you have any suggestions for manga manga that you want me to review, leave it in the comments below. Better yet, I think this is about a good enough time. If you want me to review a particular manga that you want me to just talk about for manga you should be reading, become a Patreon, and I'll do Patreon sponsored reviews from now on. So go ahead, give it a try, and I will thank you for any kind of contributions you can make. You can hit me up on Twitter. You can it'll be on the screen in the credits, as well as in the bottom link below. Captain Luffy, #Captain Luffy, and of course the tip jar is in the corner. You know what to do. So until next time, this has been Shin Tiger Curl, that dude in the straw hat, saying good day and